Finally today, with the news that after a recent court decision, the lesser prairie chicken is off the endangered species list, SUNUP's Elizabeth Hockett talked with our OSU Extension wildlife specialist, Dr. Mark Turner, about what's next for the bird.
We're here now with Mark Turner, our OSU Extension wildlife specialist. And Mark, there's been some talk about prairie chickens in the news recently. So tell us a little bit about prairie chickens in general, the different types.
Right, so here in Oklahoma, we have two species of prairie chicken. We have the greater prairie chicken, which is located in north central to a little bit in the northeast Oklahoma. And then we have the lesser prairie chicken, which is out in the northwest part of the state. The lessers, as the name would imply, are a little bit smaller. They also have a little bit more drab coloring as opposed to the graders. And both species they're both classified as game birds, but neither one has been hunted in Oklahoma since the 90s because of relatively limited population size. Historically, they had much larger ranges than that, but their ranges have shrunk substantially over time.
Mm-hmm. What's going on with the lesser and greater prairie chickens right now in the springtime?
Right, so right now is the lekking season. If folks are familiar with chickens, they know that they go up on these leks, and there's a lot of videos online of that lekking behavior where those males congregate on these relatively open sites that are usually elevated so that they can broadcast their calls. And they'll also do this dance in which the males will stomp their feet and they will inflate air sacs, and they'll raise up these neck feathers in a way that almost looks like they have ears. And so it's kind of iconic with prairie chickens, and so those lekking sites are really important. That's where obviously a lot of males congregate in order to attract females and sort out mate choice, and that's happening right now.
Yeah. So historically, these chickens have not done great in Oklahoma, but the lesser prairie chicken was just taken off the endangered species list. So what does that mean?
Right, so the lesser was just delisted, and so that was through a federal ruling. But in general, both the lesser and the greater prairie chicken have been doing relatively poorly over the past several decades. Issues such as tree encroachment into prairie systems and shrubland systems, as well as things like energy development, additional roads, even fencing can negatively impact prairie chickens. In general, both lessers and greater are extremely sensitive to any sort of vertical development. So a single tree can be a big issue for them, and they're going to stop using that site. But there's other issues going on as well that folks should consider.
So just because they were taken off the list doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing better?
Correct. Both of those populations have been contracting in range size, and so that doesn't really suggest that they're doing any better. That was just the ruling out of the federal court system.
Yeah. So what about their habitat? What kind of habitats do they like to stay in? Right,
so lesser prairie chickens specifically use things like sand shinnery oak or shrublands, along with shortgrass and mixed grass prairie. So again, really thinking about broad landscapes that are dominated by either grasses or relatively short shrubs with a nearly complete absence of trees.
So what can landowners be doing to help these species?
Absolutely. So fortunately here in Oklahoma, there's a lot of great resources both through federal and state agencies to help landowners interested in management for these species. In general, things like removing trees, reducing fencing where possible, and also using tools like prescribed fire in order to, maintain adequate structure, and also, again, remove trees like eastern red cedar. Those are all going to be common practices that we recommend to landowners working on improving land for chickens.
And you guys have some resources on these things too.
Absolutely. There's some great resources that will link into the SUNUP page from OSU Extension on managing for both greater and lesser prairie chickens.
All right, thanks for talking to us, Mark.
Absolutely.